Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Bork No Game video. Today's video is dedicated to the best SRs in the game, and when it comes to SRs, a lot of them are pretty viable depending on the situation, but let's go ahead and talk about the ones I'm going to be covering. In case I don't cover all of them, feel free to leave them down in the comments, but let's jump right into this. Lynchian being my favorite SR in the game because of her deployment cost ability. Her passive skill right here makes it so that she instantly restores 1 deployment, and then upon max enhance, it's going to be 2 deployment, and then her ultimate skill is 3 deployment, and then eventually max enhance to 4 deployment skill or 4 energy restore. She is known as an energy battery within the game. She's highly recommended amongst all players because eventually you're going to need more energy as you get more units, who require more energy, and she's going to be able to give you the ability to manage your energy a little bit better. Some would say that you don't really need her, but in other cases in RTA she is very useful. I'm talking about real-time PvP. That will probably be her main home, but she can live anywhere when it comes to PvE raids. Just because of her ability to spam characters on the field, she's definitely going to be highly recommended. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into collection and talk about the best healer in the game. I think most of you already know who she is. She doesn't really need much explanation because she speaks for herself. Alright, let's go into the stats right here and then look at her skills. Her passive ability makes it so that every third attack casts a heal on a unit. Her Heka's tonic makes it so that she does a heal over time, an AOE damage for enemies, a heal for you 25% over 8 seconds. This ultimate skill that I'm not even going to try to pronounce is absolutely amazing as well, restoring HP of all allies except herself by 30%, inflicting AOE damage on the enemy. And not to mention, she is also a flying unit, so she's going to be difficult to hit for some characters. Let's go ahead and talk about Ryan Farrier. I've talked about him before, and the reason why he's like differentiated from other tanks is because of his ability to hit stun effect. So when he does this hit stun right here, he's able to stun the opponent and also push them back a little. Alright, and then his critical body blow right here throws a power body blow into enemies in front of him, stunning them for 2 seconds. But because of like these abilities where he's constantly stunning opponents based off of his passive, based off of his special skill, and then his ultimate skill, he pretty much lands in AOE and decreases the target's evasion. It just becomes even better. And then his passive skill makes it so that he can land his like hit stun effect more often. He's just going to be stunning quite often because of his abilities, and not to mention he's a fist-based character, so he's going to be casting a bunch of skills. Someone like Constantine, who also has a bunch of stuns. Constantine doesn't have any knockback, or not as much knockback as Ryan Farrier. I think he is okay because he has like the AoE stuns, but he doesn't have a stun on his passive in particular, and his only 2 stuns come in the form of his special and ultimate, where technically Ryan Farrier can stun on his passive skill every 13 hits once he's max upgraded, and he can also stun on his ultimate skill, and then he can also stun technically on the critical body blow. When he deals AoE damage, people have to stop because they're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna punch me in the face, right? So all of these things put together makes him like the stunner in the game. Alright, anyways, let's jump into the next unit, and that's going to be Roy Burnett. Alright, Roy Burnett is a pretty cool unit because essentially he is going to be like your debuffer sort of guy. If you need someone who can debuff, he decreases target's defense by 25% for 12 seconds. So technically he is your AoE death break in some ways. In case you're looking for Epic 7 sort of terms, that is going to be what he's going to be doing. And not to mention, he just has a bunch of crazy skills. Basic attack, increase their target's incoming damage by 10% for 5 seconds. So not only can he death break people, but he can also make them more vulnerable to damage. I feel like he's going to be great for PvP in some situations, but honestly SR units are not recommended to run in PvP. Technically you can also run him in PvE in case you have like a giant raid boss that you want to make more vulnerable to damage. Then cast his ultimate skill, and then his passive skill can also do some work in the background. Alright, let's go ahead and cover Kim Sobin. Kim Sobin, by far the PvE queen, my AoE damage dealer. She is my favorite. I know like some people might not use her. I love when she uses her LMG, her light machine gun, to pretty much rain hellfire on everyone, and then fires and explosions where she launches missiles. She has been my savior when it comes to dealing AoE damage within the game. By far one of my favorite units, favorite animations, and I wish I could get her skin, but I'm saving for other things we'll talk about more in the future. What it comes down to, Kim Sobin is your PvE queen. Not really so much used in PvP because she takes a little too long to charge up her abilities, and she can be easily stunned. But if you need someone in PvE who can do a lot of work, Kim Sobin is definitely your girl. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the trio, Jushi Yoon being the one to use most likely because of his abilities where he can stun quite often. Let's talk about his first ability right here, basic attack. It's going to be dealing AOE damage, absolutely phenomenal. Who doesn't want AOE damage for their basic attack? Passive skill allows him to essentially be deployed anywhere on the field. His counter attack is pretty amazing because it grants a stun, makes him immune to Ryan Farrier's hit stun effect, so he can never be stunned. In hit stun form, he still can be stunned in different ways, just not by Ryan Farrier. And then he also has his spatial slash where he drops a skyscraper on you and stunning you for 5 seconds on 4 characters. All AOE abilities, you know, obviously not his passive because that's a passive. This being one of the better characters in the game, Jushi Yoon is absolutely monstrous. Now when it comes to Hilde, she does have a bunch of AOEs as well, and she can even increase counters like attack thanks to her passive skill, Valkyrie's Will. Now when it comes to Dragon Slayer, she can also turn herself invincible, and then Twin Blade, she can also inflict some AOE, and then she can cast herself a barrier. Now the thing that makes her different from Jushi Yoon is the fact that Jushi Yoon has some crowd control, some CC, some stun. Hilde just being a pure DPS like character. What I've been noticing is most of the characters that are recommended within counter side, they don't just deal damage in some ways. Hilde, you know, she is amazing. She has 100 or 1100 evasion. That's nothing to sleep on, but the fact that she can't stun, if she had just a little bit of CC on her kit, she would be much better and much more highly rated in some opinions. But don't sleep on her because she's going to be an excellent striker in case you want someone who has high evasion and dealing a bunch of AoE. Yumina, now she is absolutely amazing. AoE on her special, AoE on her ultimate, AoE on her basic. In some ways, she is a mirror image of Jushi Yoon, except for the fact that she's not as like stealthy, right? She increases her own crit damage, making her absolutely monstrous when she casts skills and does damage. But the thing is, she has no CC, just like Hilde. And this is where these two characters sort of fall short in some ways. If they had a little bit of CC, you know, maybe a knockback or two, they would have been absolutely phenomenal. But Jushi Yoon is the one to technically raise just because of his CC and his capabilities to deal, you know, more damage, and his snake instinct that lets him be deployed anywhere on the field. What's also interesting about the 3 units is they cannot be summoned and you cannot get shards for them yet within the game. If you actually go into the recruitment section right here and then you look through the banners, you will not see their names. All right, it's kind of interesting. I don't see Jushi Yoon and I don't see, you know, Hilde or Yumina. So it's one of those things where it's going to be very hard to acquire them, get copies for them, shard them up, limit break them. You're going to have to do it the old school way, essentially get like cubes or APT cores. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you go into the labs and then you go into the APT cores, some of you are probably also wondering, you know, when's like limit breaking, how does it all work? You're going to be using like these APT cores. We'll talk about like limit breaking and dupes, but for SR units, I feel like you're okay to use them based off of the characters. Let's go to operation and tell you what I'm talking about when it comes to SR characters being able to be used for dupes. So you can see here, Evelyn Keller actually has a stage where you can farm her shards. This is what makes SR characters really good in some ways, because you can essentially max enhance them thanks to these stages. I know not everyone's going to be coming here to farm all the shards out because it takes some time. We'll talk about how you can form a character from the shards in a bit, but Lynchian is also here, and so is Kim Sobin. So this is why I recommend Kim Sobin so often, is because she is going to be very attainable within the system right here in this operation, and then same with Lynchian because she is going to be available here. Now Buzzard, I want to special mention him because he deals a lot of AoE damage. Just note when it comes to mech based units, they are technically like not the greatest when it comes to differentiation of skills. What I'm talking about is if you run someone like Buzzard, the reason why you do is because he's an air type, but if you look at his skills, all of them is just dealing AoE damage and increasing his own stats and taking less damage. And then if you look at someone like Kim Sobin, you know, the queen of PvE, she doesn't really provide any buffs to anyone else. So she's kind of a selfish character in some ways as well. This is where like some characters have some shortcomings. When it comes down to this, characters who can do multiple things in counter side, they're much more useful, just like Jushi Yoon being able to stun. Let's talk about Rhino. He's going to be one of the PvP SR characters that's probably going to be slept on because he's just going to go straight for like the enemy team's base and deal some damage. So in case you want someone who just like rushes in there and deals damage, Rhino's going to be the dude. He's going to be used in RTA. He's a gimmicky character, so you might not see him be used often. He requires a specific comp. Just note that if you see him in PvP in RTA specifically, that person's gonna run some janky stuff, so be prepared. And the next character that I want to talk about is Jake Walker. Jake Walker can actually be a contained within like the task or act, and he is actually a pretty cool AoE character that I absolutely love. He's lightning based. He doesn't do too much because he's a selfish character as well, but if you want an AoE based character that's not Kim Sobin, then you can definitely run him. His lightning abilities are absolutely cool. His animations are pretty flashy, and I think he definitely deserves a spot as being a worthy SR as well. Honestly, all of the SRs have their place and have their situations. Like this dude is good for raids in particular, highly situational as well, you know, not too recommended, but you can find a use for every single character in their own ways. All right, so those are all the SR characters that I wanted to talk about. Oh, there's Sylvia as well. Sylvia is your mech queen. You know, when she gets max enhanced, she's going to be increasing evasion for mechs, attack. Mechs already have innately high stats, so she's going to be great for increasing their stats even further. And then not to mention, she has her AoE stun right here once it's max enhanced. 24 seconds, it's going to go to 20 seconds. It's going to hit soldiers and counters, and then Beautiful World where she launches a nuke. All of these SR units, they have their own capabilities. Don't sleep on them. Maybe some of them can work. I feel like every character in some ways is viable for specific situations, similar to something like Arknights where every character has a specific use. That's what I've been seeing in the comments. But anyways, if you made it this far in today's video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. We'll talk about facility management in another video. Once we hit 20,000 subs, we're doing a giveaway. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck on raising your SR units. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.